it's Amy coming at you with another video about how to update old wicker. I had a video that I did a few months ago where I painted a floral pattern on some wicker chairs that I'd had, and this time I wanted to talk to you about just some solid color finishes that you can do on wicker, and also how to update wicker when it's a natural color and you don't need to paint over it. It's in good enough shape that you just need to kind of spruce it back up, give it life again, and make it look pretty again. Alright, so we're going to be trying out 3 different things, see what they look like, and see how they work. Real quick before we take a look at those 3 projects, I just want to ask you to subscribe to this channel if you like videos about furniture painting, furniture flipping, or mural painting. I do a lot of content like that. And if you want to check below, I have a free worksheet for people that is a furniture flip price calculating worksheet. If you're interested in flipping furniture, it helps you figure out how much you should pay for something to kind of get the amount that you want, and some different pricing structures that people use when they're trying to decide how much to charge for something they want to flip. So grab that in the link below. Okay, well, I recently flipped a wicker little tall side table. It was super cute. I kind of wanted to keep it for myself. But I was able to sell it pretty quickly because wicker is so popular right now. And in my last video, I mentioned that if you can keep wicker in the natural color that it comes in, if it's in good enough shape to do that, if you can just clean it up and kind of renew it, then do that. Right now, natural wicker and rattan are super hot and trendy. Boho style furniture and decor is totally in. So this was a piece that it was filthy when I found it at the thrift store. It had some stuff on top that looked like maybe gum. I was hoping it wasn't, but I went ahead and bought it because I thought I would be able to get it out and clean it up a little bit and ask quite a bit more for it. So that is what I did. The first thing I did was clean this with some baking soda and water mixed together and with a toothbrush to kind of scrub down in there and try and get out all the dirt. Now, the baking soda did leave a little bit of powdery white residue, so I would not recommend using baking soda unless it's something that is going to be pretty hard to clean and you feel like you need something that's really going to be able to clean it off. If it's not super dirty, I would start with just some lukewarm water, or even water with a little bit of vinegar, or some very mild dish soap, just a little bit mixed in, and use that first because I think that will be a little more gentle and won't leave a lot of white powdery residue when it dries. The good news is that the baking soda and water did clean all that gross stuff off the top of this table that I had bought, and it cleaned it up all over and it made it look much, much nicer. After I finished doing that and let it dry, it seemed like it wasn't very moist. The wood was kind of dried out looking, and it wasn't very shiny or colorful anymore. And then there were quite a few places where the finish had been marred and nicked off, and it was a much lighter color underneath. So what I needed was something that would kind of smooth that out, shine and polish it back up again, and restore the color in the places where the color was missing. So what I tried is this product called Restor-a-finish. You can find it at hardware stores. I typically go to Home Depot here in Texas, and I found it there. It comes in several different wood color finishes, and this is kind of a one-step, simple furniture renewing solution. And so it's a little bit like stain, and it's a little bit like furniture polish and wax. It's a little bit colored, all in one. It kind of just updates it in one step. If it's not in really bad shape and you just want to spruce it up and make it look clean and new and fresh and shiny again, this works pretty well. And now I've used it before on wood furniture, which is kind of what it's presented for, but I had not used it on like wicker and rattan type stuff, but it worked great. And it looked so pretty after I finished wiping this on. It was so easy to do. And once it was all dried and pretty again, I just took some pictures of it and sold it right away and made, gosh, I want to say probably almost $50 on that little table. So it was great. I did not wait for it to go on sale at Salvation Army because I knew that it wouldn't be there anymore. It would go too fast. So I went ahead and paid I think $30 that they were asking for it. But once I cleaned it up, it looked great, and I was able to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. The second little project I'm going to show you guys is something I found at a thrift store. It actually is like a very tall old sewing basket, I believe. And I realized that in my first video about wicker, I had not really shown you guys how I made my wicker chairs painted white the first time. I showed a picture of them because I did it years ago. They were this dark rattan surface, and the dark stain was chipping off, so they looked really bad. And so I painted them white all over. I dry brush painted them where you could still see the dark color through in the cracks, and I loved the way it looked. And then I clear coated them on top and sealed it. And they were good for years, but they had started getting pretty ratty and torn up, and so I touched them up, and then I decided to paint a design on them just to kind of renew the look in my breakfast room. But I was going to show you here kind of how to do that look just for the solid color. What you want to do when you're painting on something is with the wicker, don't try to get it all the way down into every crack. You'll never be able to, and what looks cool about it is to have the kind of paint dry brushed on top and then have some of the color coming through underneath. This particular little sewing basket that I chose to use, it's not even all natural fabric. Some of it's natural and some of it seems a little more synthetic, some of the stuff woven in. Anyway, I wasn't super in love with the way it looked, and I thought it would be much cuter if it was painted and I could use it kind of as an accessory when I'm staging furniture pictures and stuff. So what you want to do is use a brush that you are going to put some of I use chalk paint here, put some of that on top and then wipe it back a little bit so it's not dripping with paint. Then you brush on top, just mostly across the surface. That's what dry brushing is. You don't try to get way down in there. Now there will be some places that get a little bit of paint globbed on, especially when you first put the brush down when you've got the most paint on it. Go ahead and brush into those and keep it from making any thick gooey patches anywhere. You want it all spread out pretty evenly. And then the other thing you want to do is look at it in any place where you see that it needs a little more paint there than what your brush is managing to apply, because you have this very uneven surface. Then what you want to do is like pounce the brush in. You kind of staple it in to get the paint down in there a little more where you need to. But you're not going to do that everywhere. You're just going to do that in the places where you need to even up the overall look of the color. So you do that everywhere, and it's really super quick to do because you're just kind of brushing it across the top. So this was very fast to paint. One thing I'll warn you is the paintbrush does kind of spit paint a little more than you might expect it to. I was doing this over here, and I had covered a small area of my coffee table because I'm really not a messy painter. I painted murals for years, and you have to learn to be real careful with your paint. But because of the nature of the brush going over that rough surface, it kind of spits almost like when you have a toothbrush and you run your finger across it. So just watch out. I just looked all around as soon as I finished painting anything and made sure I didn't have any stray sprinkles, and if I did, I wiped them up before they were dry, and so not a problem. But if you missed those and then the paint dried somewhere, you might not like that you had painted a little more of your furniture than you wanted to. So I thought this one was cute after it was painted, dry brush painted with the white, off-white all over. I think it would be even cuter if it was a dark color underneath, because you would see that contrast more, and I do like the contrast between the darker natural color underneath peeking through with the white on top, but this was a fairly light one. So you could do a dark color with the light color shining through, but for the type of stuff I paint and the things I'm staging, I think a white painted one that's kind of farmhouse looking is going to do the best for me staging pictures of furniture that I'm painting. And now the third project I did, I was interested in some other kind of finish. I wanted to try a colored stain and see what that would look like on wicker. In this case, I looked around, and the only stain that I happen to have on hand that is colored is the color that I used on the trim, some cedar trim outside of my house. It's kind of a blue-green color, a grayish green blue color. I don't know, it's kind of a grayish aqua color. I don't know. What do you think? I knew that when I put it on top of this very yellow basket, which I guess this is probably another sewing basket that I used here, that the yellow color would influence the grayish color of the paint, because the yellow is going to show through. It's not going to be completely opaque. So keep that in mind anytime you're painting something with a sheer color of paint, that the color underneath, look at your color wheel and think about those two colors kind of blending together, because what you're going to get is a color somewhere in the middle, not exactly the color of paint you're putting on. In this case, what I felt like the grayish blue paint would do was like almost weather it and antique it, and also I have a lot of things in that grayish blue color in my house, so I felt like it would go with a lot of my stuff, whereas the color of the original basket was very yellow, and I don't have very many yellowish things, yellow, golden, wood colored things in my house. So in this case, this is a raw material basket. It has not been sealed or coated. It's more like a woven basket that you would you know, order at a home show party. I don't know. But this piece was raw and unfinished, and so I knew that it would suck up the paint quite a bit. And so for that reason, I sprayed it with water before I painted it, because I didn't want it to be just solid color blue. I wanted it to look kind of weathered and kind of stained. Now there's a couple of factors that would make it behave differently. One is that if the basket had already been sealed, like if it was a wicker that was a natural color but is like kind of shiny, like it has a clear coat on top, then it will not suck up the stain like this. And so in that case, you could do, the look I was kind of going for was putting the stain and getting it down into the cracks and then sort of wiping it back on the high points so that there would be more color kind of down in the cracks than up on top. The more sealed your basket is, the more you're going to be able to wipe back that paint or that stain that you're putting on. So if you don't want it to soak in too much, one thing you could do is clear coat the basket a little bit first, either with a spray or with just a brush, and put some clear coat on there and let it dry. And then you could put the stain and wipe it back, in which case it won't soak in immediately. The darker the stain is, just remember on raw surfaces, that stuff soaks in and gets really, really dark. So make sure that you at least sort of get it wet or spray it before you do that, or else it's just going to, make really dark lines and your brush marks are going to show and everything, probably a little more than you want. In the case of the stain that I was using, it's not a transparent stain. It is like an opaque solid color stain, and so I watered it down quite a bit with water to make it a little more thin and runny and sheer, because I wanted it to look a little bit more like a wash of color. And I ended up, after I painted the outside and wiped it back some, I was liking the way it looked, and then I opened the inside of the box and it was so bright yellow, I decided to paint the inside of the box too. And once it was all finished, I actually thought it was pretty cute. And there are a couple of places where the wicker is kind of broken and sticking out. I think I'm going to just hot glue those little pieces down to make them lie flat and make the thing a little bit more stable. And then it'll be a cute little accessory or side piece that goes with a lot of the stuff in my house. So anyway, those are 3 options for you. Just thought you might want to see what it looks like when you try out some different things on wicker, some different options for what it can look like. But whatever you do to it, wicker is super hot right now. And like I said, if you can manage to do nothing to it, that's the best bet of all. Keep it like as it was original. That vintage, bohemian, cool, groovy wicker style is what's in right now. So resist painting it if you can. The other little hint I have is that if you are interested in painting or changing a piece, it's a great idea to do what I did. Find a small little sample of something at a thrift store that is kind of a similar type of material, and try it on there first before you go for it on your furniture, to be sure that you're going to like it, that you know what your materials are going to do, or at least close to what they're going to do. The other thing I did on the little piece, the little yellow basket, is I started on the back because I wasn't sure how it was going to take the stain. And so start in a place, don't start right on the top or the front of the piece of furniture. Start on the side or the back until you kind of get a feel for how it's going to go on and what it's going to look like. And that will help you have a little more confidence by the time you get to the front, the part that everybody's going to see, that you're applying it in the way you want to and getting the look that you want. All right, well, give those things a try if you want. I would love to hear in the comments below, what have you done to restore any of your wicker pieces or update them? Have you painted any kind of wicker or rattan or anything like that? I'd love to hear what you want to try or what you have tried. Let me know. All right, I'd love for you to subscribe or like this video if there was something in it that was of interest to you, and I hope I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.